Is that what you want to start with?
I want to start with Chris and Jack, yes.
Let's go. Okay.
All right, so Chris and Jack. All right, if you are a child and you're listening to this, don't look up Chris and Jack.
Oh, no.
But if you're an adult listening to this, maybe don't look up Chris and Jack. Less strong. Chris and Jack, I actually don't think that they're like incredibly vulgar. I haven't watched the one sketch you sent me. I'm assuming it's not all that vulgar. But Chris and Jack are a YouTube comedy duo. And in the vein of like SNL sketch comedy. And I admit that I think they're really funny. However, the thing that I want to talk to you about, because you've watched this one sketch, only the one?
Only so yeah. Let's make something clear. I've never seen these people before. I know nothing about them.
Yeah.
My dad sent me this video. He said this is funny, and I watched it, and I thought it was funny, so I sent it to you.
And I haven't watched it yet, just for the record.
Yeah, but you're building this up like it might be really inappropriate. Now I'm nervous because there's nothing about it that's inappropriate. It's funny. There's theological stuff in there. Like they make good, smart theology jokes, and that's always fun. Yeah,
all right, so that's fun. That's fun. That's fun.
Yeah.
So the reason, I think they're really funny. I've watched a bunch of their sketch comedy. However, the reason that I want to critique them, Chris and Jack, if you're listening, change Chris and Jack. I think they are incredibly nihilistic. I don't know if that came across in this particular sketch that you sent me, but it is like I've had this experience where, because I think they're really funny. So I've watched their sketch comedy 2 or 3 in a row. And after like 20 minutes of like 6 minutes apart of comedy, I'm like, man, like this is like, this can be sad.
I know nothing about them other than this one singular video that I've seen, and I thought it was funny. And so
they have
I
one
shared
video
it with
about a genie and a guy who knew it was a genie in a bottle, and so he like really prepared for his wish making, and for the genie to try and catch him in a loophole. That is incredibly funny, but they have a tendency to be nihilistic. I guess that's really why I said, if you're a kid listening, don't necessarily look them up, because it could be really dark. It's not even that it's vulgar. If anything, it's more dangerous because it could be just so dark.
Oh my goodness.
I know you didn't expect me to have thought through this as much as I had.
Wow.
So today, Father's Day. Welcome to the Tangent, Father's Day.
Hey, thanks. You know what I'm doing right now? I'm looking out the window here, and I've never actually done this before. But today I'm keeping an eye out for the Amazon guy.
Nice. Okay.
I've never done that before because it's never really mattered. And in this case, it also doesn't matter.
Okay.
But I ordered something, and so I on the regular I order dog treats.
Okay.
Because they are cheaper if I buy them from Amazon than if I go to the pet store up the street. Now, just lest it sound like I'm anti-small business or something.
Okay.
The pet store is a chain that's local, so it's not like I'm.
Well, that's not good. It's good that it doesn't matter, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, It's not that I'm not supporting small business. It's that I found a better deal and I'm spending my money more wisely,
nice.
I guess, by supporting the giant evil corporation Amazon. I don't know.
Right, yeah. At this point.
Yeah, because they need my money. I don't know. But anyway, it's dog treats that I'm waiting for. I don't actually, I have enough to get me. My dog is not going to starve.
Father Sam, what's the name of your dog?
Duke.
Duke.
My dog's name is Duke.
You got that, everybody? Father Sam's got a dog named Duke.
And he's very food motivated. Right? Anyway, doesn't matter. Okay. That's not the point of the story.
Right.
The point is that for some reason this particular shipment was delayed, and so it says, I get this update. Sorry, your delivery is taking longer. It will now come between these days, and so that was 4 days ago, and then it updated to it will now be delivered between like today and Wednesday or something.
Right.
Okay, and then it said it's out for delivery. So I've been getting updates all of a sudden because this particular shipment got delayed. I have never paid any attention at all to where something that's coming from Amazon might be located at the moment. And now all of a sudden I'm like, I'm tracking it. I want to see where it's going. Like, what happened to me? I'm questioning my own sanity.
You watched a sketch by Chris and Jack, and it profoundly impacted your psyche.
I don't know. Suddenly, I'm actually like wondering it, so I'm keeping an eye. I don't need to be. It's not important enough.
Yeah, you shouldn't. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
It's going to be fine.
You can't even eat it.
I was going to say, I can't actually use this thing for myself. This is dog treats.
Yes.
It's not even something I can do anything about.
If you eat one of them, it's going to taste bad. And it's going to be bad for your gut. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes.
I want to amend my statement and say that I will watch this Chris and Jack sketch, and I will comment in the next episode about it. Okay. All right. Father Sam, we actually came here with a purpose today.
We did, as we usually do. There he is. There's our purpose. Pope Leo XIV, the first American Pope.
The first American Pope.
Yeah, I thought, in our episode where we talked about his address to the social media influencers, we got to talk a little bit about that, and I misspoke. We were approaching the 100-day mark of his pontificate. We had not actually passed it. We have now passed officially the 100-day mark, but we're also coming as we record this to the end of the summer, and there's a way in which I'll give you some background here, because your lived experience that you remember, as we've talked about before, was just Pope Francis,
right.
and Francis quite famously never took summer vacation, never left, and so there's a papal retreat called Castel Gandolfo right outside of Rome. It's in the hills. It's a beautiful little town. And it's where the Pope would go for a period of time every summer. Sometimes more than once. He would go there for like a week and then come back to Rome and then go back for another week.
Which I think Pope Leo did. Didn't he go
twice? He did. Exactly. So Francis never went. And there's a whole thing about how the presence of the Pope during the summer months was a big deal for Castel Gandolfo as a town, for this little region, for everything that they do. So it's a big deal that you would have you'd have the Holy Father there. It makes a big difference to the people who work there, to the businesses that are there.
Yeah, I was going to say there's got to be some kind of socioeconomic.
Yeah, well, the whole town basically exists because the Pope shows up there.
Right.
So it's a really beautiful little spot.
You've been?
I've been, yes. It's been a very long time since I've been, but I have been to there. And so Pope Leo going back, this is a big thing. But the other thing that happens generally in Rome during the month of August is that Rome empties. A lot of Rome shuts down. Now, this year is a little bit different because it's a Jubilee year. And so you've got tons of pilgrimage groups that are going in, lots of people who are there as tourists, lots and lots of people coming through because August is when they can go. So the typical clearing out of the city of Rome, apparently from everything that I'm hearing about and reading about, looks a little bit different than it might normally look. But generally speaking, Rome is a very unpleasant place to be in the month of August.
Okay.
Because it's a trillion degrees every day.
I was going to say, it's weather.
Yeah, it's 400% humidity. It's just not a place that you really want to go.
What actually happens is if you live in Rome in the city of, listen to me, in the month of August, you actually develop gills. And it's similar to living underwater.
Yeah, exactly. It's just not the most pleasant. But a lot of Romans take it as their opportunity to go on vacation. So that's when they go to the seashore. That's when they go to the mountains. They go any place where there's going to be a breeze or where the weather's going to be a little bit cooler.
Right.
And so the typical clearing out it's kind of a big deal. Now, this especially happens on what's called Ferragosto, which is August 15th, the solemnity of the Assumption of the Blessed Virgin Mary. So to mark that feast, you'll have... Really, that's when people fully shut down. There's nothing open. Everybody goes away. It's meant to be a time to celebrate, to relax, and everything.
Yeah.
So
that's pretty wonderful. It's not that I want to interrupt you. I just want to say how wonderful it is that there is a, I guess in this instance, citywide culture around a liturgical feast. And I guess we have that with Christmas and Easter, but culturally speaking, it's so secular now.
Yeah. Well, and what's really, if you go back and you do the research on how Ferragosto originated, it actually originated as a Roman holiday. The Roman Empire had this as their middle of August celebration as a way of take a break, rest, etc.
Right.
Anyway, what this means for the life of the church. If Rome is pretty much emptied out in the month of August, there's been a long-standing tradition that nothing really happens in August in Rome. Now, Pope Francis sometimes would change that up, but typically that's when all of the different Vatican dicasteries and congregations and whatever else, that's when the curia is able to like go home and visit their families. That's when a lot of people are, there's just less activity. So you don't really expect much in the way of church action, like internal church action.
Right.
It's like super rare for a bishop, or it seems to be super rare. I don't think it actually is super, but it seems to be very rare that like a bishop is appointed in the month of August, because things tend to shut down. So there's like always this little bit of a lull. If there's any big activity, it's usually the Pope is on a trip. The Pope went to this event.
Okay.
There's a World Youth Day, or there's a Jubilee year.
And even then, it's outside of Rome.
Typically, exactly. So with all of that, there's like this kind of calming down of activity. So now that we've passed 100 days of the papacy, we're in 100 days in plus to Pope Leo XIV, the first American pope, and we're coming to the end of the month of August, and we're like looking ahead at the anticipated like new activity. I thought we could have a good time just going over some of those first impressions of Pope Leo.
Yeah, some fun reflection,
and maybe even thinking a little bit about things that he might be up to in the coming months.
Yeah, cool. So I'm excited for this. And I was thinking along those same lines that this doesn't have to be exclusively things he's written, you know. It could just be the impressions, like you said. I want to give you the floor. I want to hear what you have to say, and then we'll go back and forth, but I want you to start.
Okay. Well, let's see. As I look at Pope Leo, I've said this already on the podcast, but I'm going to say it again because I think it bears repeating. It still moves my heart every time I hear him speak English.
Yeah.
Like I can't help myself. There's just something that really pulls at my innards.
I don't even know what to say to that.
It's just like what I mean is like there's like this
Father
visceral
Sam, you're not
response.
supposed to say that in public.
No, like there's this visceral response. Like the Pope is speaking my language.
Yes.
He has an American accent, and like I feel this definite sense of like connection to him, and it's really beautiful. I was reading something, a former. Oh, what's his name? I can't think of his name. I think he wrote this column for The Pillar. I think he's a former U.S. congressman, and he was writing about his excitement. He was going to the International Catholic Legislators meeting with so there's like an international group of Catholic legislators. Yeah. So. And he was going to have the chance to meet the Holy Father, which I thought that's first off, it's just beautiful. Here's this American guy who's been involved in politics who's going to have the chance, and he's by all accounts, he seems to be a faithful Catholic guy. He's excited about having the chance to meet the Holy Father, but what he was writing about was, I'm worried that because he has the same accent as me, that I'll be too casual.
Right.
And he's like, maybe I need to remember to be so he's kind of like, as he's writing this article, describing what he wants to do, and at the same time the feeling of like, no, we can be pretty casual. Like there was something that Leo did pretty early in the pontificate. So he's at one of the audiences, or the Wednesday audiences or the Sunday Angelus addresses. Somebody gave him a White Sox hat. And so there's a famous picture now of him wearing the White Sox hat. And you're like, okay, this is great. This guy.
He also received the Chicago style deep dish pizza.
He did. Yes. So they people have been bringing him American type things, and somebody threw something to him.
Yes, I saw that.
It was like a plush doll or something.
Yeah.
And they threw it to him, and he caught it with one hand. And no joke, this made headlines all over the place because of the way that he caught it. Right. And everybody's like, you can tell that this is somebody who's played baseball before.
Yeah.
And if you think about all of the other popes that we've ever had, you know that not one of them has ever played baseball before.
Right.
We've had popes who have been interested in hiking and skiing, who have
Right.
played soccer, who once upon a time like were involved in some sport or another. But the idea that there's a pope who has played baseball, who can make a one-handed catch.
Right. That like potentially like participated in Little League.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like,
There's
I don't know how old Little League is, but there's a chance.
There's a whole lot of shared experience. And again, we've said this already on the podcast, but there's just something really, really great about that. So first impressions are there's just an
something
authenticity.
that pulls at your innards.
Yeah. But there's an authenticity that I think we get because we share a common background, a common culture.
Yeah.
And so it makes it, I think for Americans, I don't claim to speak for all Americans, but
but at least for these two.
Yeah, I think there is something that he's easy to relate to.
Yes.
But there's also something that I see just before we get into even like the tone of his voice or the content of his words, just look at his face. And there's a kindness and a gentleness to his face, and the only way I can describe it is there's an authenticity in his eyes. You look at his eyes and you see this is a guy who's authentic. He knows who he is. He knows what he's about.
Yeah.
And that is profoundly attractive.
Yeah.
And then add the externals, like the appearance, the face, the literal face that he gives, and start looking at what he's saying. And there's a consistency in the way that he speaks. His style is consistent across different, whether it's in a letter, whether it's a homily, an Angelus address, a papal audience. There's a consistency to the things that he says. He's also got I think a gift for summary. He's able to say things in such a way that he's not belaboring the point.
Yeah. He's like the opposite of the tangent.
Yes. Does that mean that you think he wouldn't be a friend of the show?
No, I think he would be a great friend of the show. I just think that we would have to come up with better questions.
Yeah, very true. Very true. Well, I'm excited. In I don't know when NCYC is, but the National Conference,
National Catholic Youth
Conference,
Yes.
is coming up in Indianapolis, and he's going to do a live Q&A.
Yeah.
So via teleconference
that was actually one
link.
of the things that I wanted to talk about. So
yeah, go for it.
Well, I just thought it was amazing. So I'm assuming you read this on the Pillar. I read it on the Pillar. But
I'd like to tell you that I read it on the Pillar, but I heard it from Bill Staley because he's got connections, and he told me about it before the news broke. And so,
fair enough.
I guess I'm the first one on this podcast to have known about it.
Very cool. Got the inside scoop. But so they reported it. They reported it on the Pillar, and the thing that really struck me was that NCYC had reached out and said something along the lines of like, "Hey, will you do a 10-minute pre-recorded video?" And to my understanding, that's because Pope Francis has done that before for NCYC.
Okay.
And so they kind of reached out. I mean, like he had just been elected the Pope. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think they were hopeful. You know, he's got a lot going on. And the Vatican reached back out, and the answer was not yes. The answer was yes, but I want to change some things. I want it to be longer, and I want it to be live. And so when I read that, I was like, oh my gosh, you know, like, I mean, this isn't to suggest that Pope Francis didn't care, of course, you know. I mean, Pope Francis did a 10-minute video for these young children, you know what I mean?
Right.
These teenagers. But the fact that he upped it, you know, he not only received it and reciprocated, but he upped his game, you know?
I have this image in my head now, though, of at NCYC, he's up there at Lucas Oil Stadium on the big Jumbotron and everything, and you see his lips moving and he's talking, and then you have some people in the crowd yelling, "Holy Father, you're muted!" Just like,
yeah. I mean, that was one of the things in the article was like, how does one figure out the logistics of this, you know?
Well, because you need to make sure that it's a super secure connection so that it can't be hacked by somebody who's going to get in and like
I actually think
bad
EWTN
things.
is playing a role.
I think they are, yeah.
So, but this will be the second Jumbotron the Pope is on in the first year.
Yeah.
Not that we should judge the success of the Holy Father by the number of Jumbotrons he is on.
Look,
But-
a Jumbotron appearance is kind of a big deal. It's something that people at stadiums across the country try to do. They want to be on the Jumbotron. I think you're going to no matter what I say.
So we were in Pittsburgh recently, and my family and I went to a baseball game, a Pittsburgh Pirates game.
Okay.
And it was do you know who Paul Skeens is?
Yes.
So Paul Skeens pitched, which was really cool. It was basically an accident that we showed up on one of the game at a game that Skeens pitched.
That's one of the best things with certain sporting events is that you get to be there when a certain player is in the lineup.
Yes. And it was awesome. It was so good. And he did a great job.
It's a special experience.
In the league.
Yeah, it's a very special experience to see that. That's awesome.
But so it was like as soon as we got there and we heard that he was pitching, it was like, oh, this is going to be fantastic, you know? But it was like the single best baseball game I've ever been to because of what my son got to experience, which is he got on the Jumbotron. So we were basically on the field in right field. So my mother-in-law, we got handicapped seats, you know. So we were like the dirt was at our feet.
Wow.
And so we're right behind this net, and at this game, my son gets on the Jumbotron, which was awesome. They have a pierogi race at PNC Park where all of Mrs. T's pierogies run around the field. My son referred to the baseball game as the pierogi race. We know what he cares about. He got high fives from all the pierogies. And there was a quote unquote bench clearing brawl. You know, one of those baseball fights where they all run out of the bullpen and then just proceed to talk to each other.
Yeah.
So there was one of those, and as it was happening, it was great timing. We had just talked about how funny baseball fights are, because nobody fights. It's just a big conversation. It's a big conversation.
Sometimes they do fight, and sometimes the fights are epic. Like look up Nolan Ryan, Robin Ventura. You'll see a great baseball fight.
Father Sam, you're talking to a hockey fan here.
Yeah.
In hockey, they fight, and you just get a 5-minute timeout. That's it. It's hilarious. But so they were fighting, you know, or talking or whatever, and because we were right on the field, I got to say to the back girl, like, "Hey, did you go in there? Did you get in the fight?" You know, and she thought that was funny, and so after an inning, she came back and she was like, "Hey, and she pointed to my son. She was like, "Hey, did he get a ball yet?" And I was like, "No." And so the inning, the Pirates took the lead, with which they then won. You know, she got the ball and she came over and she gave it to my son.
Nice.
So he got the game ball, you know. He got high fives from the pierogies. There was a baseball fight. He got on the Jumbotron. I was like, this is the thing that baseball fans dream of, you know, like you did one of everything.
Tell me about, what do you think the odds are that he will remember?
He has since kept referring to it as the pierogi race. So
okay.
As far as the game ball goes, very low. As far as the pierogi race goes, very high.
It's a vivid,
yeah.
So
yeah, I mean,
what
we
you've
have
done
miniature figures of these pierogies.
Yeah.
know?
So he, for him, pierogies run around a field in lavish costume.
Yes.
And
yes.
this is
Oliver
a core
Onion,
memory. Yeah,
jalapeno Hannah.
A core memory formed for him.
Yes, exactly.
And no other memory. That's good.
Exactly.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can get behind that. I'm on board.
Tangent over, but it was fantastic. It was great.
Okay.
So I guess the point is we shouldn't judge people by the number of Jumbotrons they get on.
Right, or how fast their favorite pierogi can run.
Yes. Or even if they have a favorite pierogi.
Valid.
Yeah. But it is pretty amazing that he not the pierogies, Pope Leo XIV.
Right. Just to clarify who we're talking about here.
Yeah. Now, since we've switched gears back to professional mode, obviously.
The Pope is not a pierogi.
Yes. This is what the people came here for.
Insightful commentary delivered. Yeah.
Pull it together, Father Sam.
No, this is way more fun. Come on now.
I know.
It's the end of the summer. Don't make me work.
But I thought it was awesome that he upped the ante, you know, and turned it into a 45-minute back and forth Q&A.
And this is the thing I think we're going to see is his interaction with youth. we saw it already at the Mass at Tor Vergata for the Jubilee for Youth. Over 1 million people showed up for this Mass. The night before, he came to the vigil, and the tour he took around St. Peter's Square there was another event for that Jubilee for Youth. It was like a victory lap, and I'm not suggesting that the Holy Father did the victory lap for himself, but there was this I don't know, just an energy to see the Pope that you saw with the youth. There's a joy and excitement, and you get the sense that he is responding.
Yes,
and it's reminiscent, I would say, actually, of Pope Francis's first World Youth Day. In Brazil, in Rio, that first World Youth Day that he was at, there was just so much energy and excitement. But there's also, I feel like there is something a little bit different. I mean, obviously Leo's a different personality than Francis, and so you're going to see differences pretty evidently. But there's there is something very, very different, even just in his tone, the way that he speaks, the things that he says. Again, something else that I've observed already on the podcast, but I'll observe it again here, is just that he sticks to a script. He is a pope who prepares carefully what he wants to say and says the thing that he wants to say and says it with obvious care. And I think that's another important piece, that he's able to do that, that he's able to speak with care. Now, this could be an interesting thing. While we have commented before on his fluency in Italian and Spanish and his clear facility with those languages, I haven't seen it. Now, I don't know if this is accurate, but I haven't seen an interview that he's done or a Q&A session where he's taken questions and answered them off the cuff. But the NCYC Q&A session could be really instructive for what's his less formal style, what's his off the cuff style. I don't know. There are some old videos of him answering questions at events when he was a cardinal, where he's answering questions in English, and so you get a sense of it. But of course, there's something different when it's the Pope, when it's just some cardinal giving answers. You know?
No, totally.
There's a difference. So it'll be interesting to see what his off the cuff responses are like. But I think the fact that he wanted to do that, coming back to the NCYC, that he wants to be there, that he wants to engage live with them. And that the first time he's doing something like this, at least it seems to me this is the first time. I don't know of another time when he's done live questions like this, is with an American audience. I think that's going to be, obviously, English is his native language. That's the place where he's going to be most comfortable speaking off the cuff because he can be most clear off the cuff. It's hard to be clear off the cuff in a language that's not your own.
Right.
Because you're going to mess something up. You're going to say it the wrong way, or you're going to pick the wrong word, and then everybody blows it out of proportion or something.
Right. And it's like, I just meant to say this instead.
Right. So I think he's got that deep care for how he speaks. But he also speaks with tremendous clarity.
And so I'm going to jump off that too. And say, speaking of tremendous clarity, obviously, there's the Angelus and there's the Wednesday audiences, but I've read a few of them, period. And I have been like, I think it's just that I don't know if it's that I'm deeply impressed or if I'm deeply moved by what he says. And I don't know if you've read them.
Why not both? Porque no los dos.
But I don't know if you've had a similar experience. And specifically, I mean, it doesn't have to be this one. I'll open the door for you in a second. But last Sunday, his Angelus was on the gospel, and I think that last Sunday's gospel. So it was Luke 13:22-30. Admittedly, I just read that off of paper. Wouldn't it be cool if I had memorized it?
It would be cool, but you're not that
cool. And
cool.
it's Jesus talking about the narrow gate, and like that's a hard. I mean, maybe I'm saying this as someone who's never given a homily and you've got it down, But I can only imagine that that's one of the more difficult gospel passages to write a homily around that is both honest, orthodox, and also like inviting, and I don't want to say pastorally sensitive. That's not really what I mean. Like gentle. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I told the people on Sunday that there's a challenge when a gospel like this comes up, where Jesus says something tough about who gets into heaven or how difficult it might be. I said, because by the very nature of the subject matter, people will say, "Oh, Father, it was really fire and brimstone today." I'm like, I wasn't really fire and brimstone. I wasn't screaming at everybody about how they're all going to hell or anything like that. But the mere mention of sin, death, heaven, or hell very often elicits in people like that sentiment of, "Oh, this is a challenge, and I'm meant to feel guilty. I'm meant to feel bad." So they kind of word association jump to the conclusion of fire and brimstone, even if you're saying God is inviting us into a relationship, and we don't want to miss the opportunity. You can say it in the most gentle possible tone. There's always going to be that feeling of it. And this is something I think that Pope Leo does actually really well. He's able to say those difficult things, but with a tone that is so honest, open,
like
sincere.
He's not cutting corners.
No,
he's not cutting corners, but he's gentle.
He's so
and
inviting.
Meek.
Yeah.
Even it literally says at first glance here. It was my first glance down too. It says, so he brings it up. It says, "Strive to enter through the narrow gate. For many, I tell you, will try to enter, will not be able." It says, "At first glance, this image can make us think, if God is the Father of love and mercy, who always stands with open arms to welcome us, why does Jesus say that the gate of salvation is narrow?" So I was really impressed that and again, who am I to be impressed by the decision the Pope makes? You know what I mean? But I was really happy that he basically defined terms and then asked the hard question. He laid the groundwork and asked the difficult question. And he talks here about how he talks about how it's not just religious acts, but religious acts that are combined with a change of heart. But then he ends up ultimately calling Jesus the narrow way. Like the narrow way is Jesus himself. And he had this line that I loved. That was, he said, "Jesus is the true measure of our faith. He is the gate through which we must pass in order to be saved, by experiencing his love and by working in our daily lives to promote justice and peace." So that I've never heard it interpreted that way. Who is not what is the narrow gate, who is the narrow gate? And I was like, oh, so he managed it's literally this long. I'm going to hold it up for those who are watching, right? It's this long. It's a page, and he successfully broached a very difficult question and provided an honest, orthodox, and inviting answer. And it's that's so hard to do. It's so hard to do. So I was so happy reading that one.
This is where his gift for clarity is so evident.
Yeah.
But not only the gift for clarity, but the sincerity that he has.
Yes.
You can't say things like that with such clarity if it's not sincere. And a beautiful element of the style of Pope Leo XIV is that there's again, in these first 100+ days, this is what I'm seeing. That sincerity, that authenticity, that honesty, that clarity, but always with the invitation. And really always who is the gate? It's Christ.
Yeah.
He's always pointing back to Jesus. He's always putting us back in contact with the Lord. He's never really talking about himself. He's never looking at the other stuff. It's always he's seeing everything, interpreting everything in light of Christ. So when he's made statements like he's called for prayer and fasting for the people of Gaza. But why? Because they are loved infinitely by Christ. He's called for an end to war. He's offered the Vatican as a place for peace talks between Russia and Ukraine. But why? Because
really?
Christ. Yeah,
I didn't know that.
I don't think they took him up on it, but he offered it to say let's make peace. he keeps
Right.
talking about peace, but why does he keep talking about peace? Because Christ desires peace, right? Christ is the Prince of Peace, and it's only in Christ that we're going to find that reconciliation and forgiveness and mercy that allows us to be at peace with one another. So there's there's a great pointing to Christ that's his constant reference point, and I think that's really beautiful. The other element that I'm seeing a lot of, and I'm sure you've picked up on this as you've read Leo, besides always pointing us to Christ, there's a tool that he uses to point us to Christ, and that is St. Augustine.
Yes.
So one thing that I've been reading a little bit about is and you've actually talked about it, like you want to dive into the Confessions and City of God and start reading Augustine. And I think I support you in that. I have
started reading Confessions, actually.
Good.
But,
I support you in it. I'm on board. But the thing
admittedly, it was for class.
That's okay.
But
Look,
it counts.
The important thing is that you're reading it.
Yeah.
This is something that several commentators have made note of, that we can probably expect to see a bit of a renewed interest in the theology and philosophy and just the thinking and the writing of St. Augustine. And to remember that St. Augustine is one of the most important doctors of the church. To remember that he's one of the most important minds in the life of especially of the early church. The fathers of the church include Augustine, I think.
Yeah.
He's a patristic.
He's toward. I'm pretty sure he's toward the end of the 400s. Patristic. But yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So, but his theology is so important. His articulation of the faith is so important. His responses to some of the bad theology that was present in his own day. Yeah. So important. And you see in Pope Leo that he's deeply, deeply rooted in the thought, the philosophy, the theology of Augustine.
So something just to build on this, that I have not brought this up before, and I'm working through this idea in the present moment. Yay, doing it on the air. So I was listening to a Thomistic Institute lecture. Everybody, if anybody enjoys theology, they should look up the Thomistic Institute podcast, the lectures they have, because they're awesome. They're awesome. And I was listening to, some of them were about predestination, because I find that concept to be incredibly mysterious, and I'm like constantly trying to learn more about it. But I was also listening to the difference between Aquinas and Luther on original sin, and that led to a lot of Augustine and Pelagianism. And so like it has dawned upon me that Augustine wrote against Pelagius quite often, right? And Pelagius, I didn't know this, I learned this from a Thomistic Institute lecture, that Pelagius, his whole idea behind essentially Pelagianism is like you can save yourself almost, right? Like that's the shorthand, and it's got to do with this idea that original sin, I guess, didn't pass down in the way that we would as Christians believe, but and don't quote me on that. Go look up Pelagius. But my understanding is that the reason Pelagius believed that original sin did not impact you the way that like Aquinas would say it does when he argues it, and Augustine, right? Obviously much earlier, is that Pelagius was trying to defend God's justice. He was saying like, how could a good God, damn someone who has never heard the gospel? Therefore, original sin must not have the effect that we think it has. And it occurs to me that this is an argument that is very common today. How could a good God damn someone who's never heard the gospel? Now, I understand that Vatican II has broached this topic in certain ways, but how fitting there is a pope who is so well-versed in the theology of Augustine when there is this new modern form of Pelagianism that I think is incredibly popular, Yeah.
Well, and the church just makes the distinction between the way of salvation being open and the possibility of salvation being available versus God condemning.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So the big difference is, we don't believe that God condemns somebody who's never had the opportunity to hear the gospel. We believe that the way of salvation would still be open and made available to them because of God's mercy. But yeah, when when you also hear at the same time, but baptism is necessary for salvation,
Right.
then you start thinking, well, but how can that be? But the church can believe two things to be true at the same time, and that they're not in contradiction with one another.
It's the classic both and with some tension in the middle.
Yeah,
but,
exactly.
But I guess all I'm trying to say is like how fantastic, that
and
the guy who fought that heresy, you know?
Pay attention to how Leo uses Augustine. I think that's going to be something for us to look at. Now, this is not like, if you want to know the entire mind of Pope Leo, go back and read everything that he's written or said so far in these 100+ days. Right. But I think if we start to think of the thought of Augustine and start paying attention to when, where, and how he's quoting Augustine, what sources is he drawing from the Augustinian canon, if you will? What is it that he's saying? How is he quoting him? He's going to also, I think Augustine's going to be an important interpretive key for understanding the mind of Pope Leo XIV, but it'll also be just really interesting to see how he's helping us understand some of Augustine's thought. Yeah, this will be real interesting.
Hey, what do you think? What was I lost my train of thought so quickly. It was here and then it was gone.
Shocking.
Yeah, I know. That's okay. I'll just move on to one of the other things that I wanted to ask you.
Yeah.
Which is, what do you think that, like, if you were gonna have some fun and prognosticate? No, that's the wrong word. Predict, prophesy, Father Sam. What do you think his first encyclical will be about? I
think prognosticate is a great word to use in that situation.
All right.
Okay. That's a good one. This is real interesting. So conventional wisdom would go with, because he's identified AI as a major concern.
Yeah.
Because it seems that he took the name Leo in this context of like the new technological revolution, just as Leo XIII was coming about in a time when there needed to be something said to laborers about the dignity of human work in this industrial revolution and post-industrial revolution era. Like, how do we as a church respond to the development of technology? So Leo XIV has been talking about the development of technology, particularly electronic stuff, AI. It's amazing because he's already had a whole bunch of like AI fake videos of him saying like things that it sounds like a pope. We said this in our last episode about this, but like, it's
no wonder it's on his mind.
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty amazing. So I think conventional wisdom would kind of go in that direction. I think I'm kind of the mind that Leo will talk about. He's been talking a lot about peace. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's something about like the notion of what peace really is, and how we are called into that peace. But I don't know exactly what he would be going for. Like, what's the main thrust of the argument or of the of the teaching?
Well, if Pope Leo XIV is a fan of Exodus 90. There was just a reflection from St. Michael's Lent about peace, and it was all about how peace is not the same as non-conflict. Right? Peace is not negative, although I suppose there's that aspect of it. But it is a union with God who is truth, goodness, and love.
Yeah, I mean...
So that could be it.
Yeah. Presumably, the encyclical would also come out before the end of the Year of Hope, the Jubilee Year of Hope. I don't know. Encyclicals take a while, but typically within the first year, a pope would issue an encyclical, it seems.
I see.
I think.
Is that true? Is that often?
It seems like it's usually in the first year that the first encyclical comes out.
That's very exciting.
Papal encyclicals are a big deal.
Yeah.
These teachings, well, because they're a mode of papal magisterium. So it's a way that the Pope is able to teach the faith, to hand on different things. And very often the first encyclical will be something that is something of a I don't like to say it this way because it sounds too political, but like an agenda-setting item.
Yeah. It's a
this
sign
is what
of what's
we're
to
doing.
come, maybe.
Yeah, but then again, you have encyclicals from like John Paul II, who was on the encyclical a year pace for 25 years.
Right.
And at a certain point, you're like, I just can't wait to hear what he has to say next about whatever the next thing is. And
Right.
his encyclicals varied in length. His contributions to the papal magisterium is incredible. Pope Benedict XVI wrote many fewer encyclicals. Granted, he was pope for a much shorter period of time, but those 3 encyclicals were packed with stuff. Right. So it'll be interesting to see. I don't know exactly what the thrust of his focus would be for this. It would make an awful lot of sense to me that he would speak about hope or about peace. It would also make a whole lot of sense that he speaks about technology, but I almost feel like the technology piece might come a little bit later. Like he'll take more time to reflect and to research. I would not be surprised if he calls together like a theological advisory council to investigate issues surrounding the use of technology and AI and things like that to offer some further insight. Sometimes the Pope doesn't write an encyclical; he might write an exhortation or some other kind of a letter, but it'll often come from a period of study, a period of reflection. So I wouldn't be surprised if he gathers some scholars to really study the issue and to then present a more coherent, cohesive teaching than might be available in 200 plus days after being elected Pope.
The other thing is that if the Pope were to release something so major, right, like an encyclical on the usage of technology, it's not just pastoral for. I mean, I suppose he's the universal pastor, so fair enough. Here it comes. But I suppose it's not just pastoral for Catholics, but like there is an evangelical aspect of that insofar as the Pope now meets everybody in something that everybody encounters.
That's absolutely true. The different papal encyclicals are not only meant for the Catholic faithful.
Yeah.
They're meant for this is the church articulating something that she believes to be true.
Right.
Through the Supreme Pontiff.
Right.
This is an articulation of the authentic teaching of the gospel.
Right.
And so here's how it might apply. Pope Francis did this in his encyclical Laudato Si on the environment. He called for care of creation and managing of resources and things. So it would not be surprising that this would happen. If you look at John Paul II's teachings and his different encyclicals, like when he teaches on the dignity of human life, he's not just teaching Catholics about the dignity of human life. He's teaching the world about the dignity of human life. And so you would see sometimes non-Catholic sources who are quoting him because the Pope says this too, to realize that no less an authority than the Pope has said this. It's not just scholars, it's not just political leaders, it's the Pope himself has said this, which would suggest that this is a truth that transcends political ideology. So yeah, you're absolutely right. When the Pope writes something in an encyclical, this is to teach the whole world in a way that's apolitical, in a way that is pointing at truth and not at anything else. Yeah.
So do you have another one, or should I jump in here?
Go ahead, jump in.
So I mentioned it to you. I don't know when we talked recently, but since we last recorded, that I saw online a video of Pope Leo XIV celebrating Mass, and as at the moment of consecration, he's holding up Christ in the Eucharist, and he's holding back tears.
Yeah,
and how moved I was to see him react in such a way, to the celebration of the Mass. And I think to kind of connect something too from what I was saying about the Angelus and the Regina Caeli, that will occur. I'll place it on myself. I'll place the blame upon myself that I have not been excited to study and pray through, more importantly, not just study, pray through these short messages from the Pope before. But like I as I was, printing out a bunch of these to just kind of read through some stuff in preparation for this episode, I was like, man, I read it and I'm going to talk about it, but I got to sit and like pray through this later when I have like 40 minutes to focus on these 500 words, and so like, that's also really exciting it's a feeling, so I'm not suggesting that it wasn't the reality before, but I feel as if I am being led in a personal way now. And I don't know that I've had that before. Yeah.
So one element of that personal feeling, I think, is the fact that Leo, as an American, has a natural appeal to us.
Yeah.
There's the feeling of familiarity.
I can't help it. I like the guy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I've never met him in person, but he sounds a lot like people who I have talked to many times, and so he
sounds like the kind of people I like.
He seems pretty likable. From a theological perspective, from a pastoral perspective, the way that he speaks about things is beautiful and clear. He's not saying crazy things. He's saying things that I am nourished by, that like help me to take steps forward in my faith. So there's a goodness to him that's very, very evident. So like I like the guy. It makes it more attractive to say I want to listen to him. I want to read his writings. I want to get to know his content better. But to your point about his celebration of the Mass, I'm glad you brought it up because it was on my list also of things that I wanted to make sure we talked about. The way that he celebrates Mass, there's an obvious, very, very clear devotion. And you watch him say Mass and you know that he believes. He believes in what he is doing. And I think he also understands that he is responsible for setting an example. Now, not in a heavy-handed way, but you can tell that he has the sense of part of my responsibility is to set the example for priests, for my brother bishops, for how to celebrate the Mass and how to celebrate it with reverence and with care and with love. What you'll notice with Leo is that he's faithful to the way that the Mass is written. He prays the words of the prayers. He doesn't change them. He also follows the rubrics. We did a whole episode on the importance of rubrics and why liturgical norms and rubrics are important. And he does it. He follows them, and he follows them for a reason, because I think he understands that the liturgy itself is the prayer of the church. It belongs to the church, so it's bigger than the celebrant. And he understands that even as Pope, when he celebrates the Mass, he does so in service to the people. And so it's not about him. It's not about his own preferences. But when you do that, when you recognize this as being in service to the people, like I celebrate the liturgical acts and the liturgical prayer of the church on behalf of the people, well, there's also this other, let's say, even more important element, which is you're returning worship to God. You're giving to God that worship. And so when you watch him celebrate Mass and he's at the consecration holding up the host and he's looking at Jesus, to see him moved with tears is this knowledge that what he is doing is for the worship of God, and he knows himself to be worshiping God. And he also knows that because of his particular office, there's a way in which, because he is Pope, he's drawn into the sacrifice of Christ in a way that requires perhaps even more of him as a priest than he had ever known before. And so Pope Leo is not afraid to show us that he's growing, that he's learning, that he's still being affected by things, right? Now, you might notice tears in his eyes, but what you'll also not see is Pope Leo falling apart in a sobbing mess of tears, right? Like unable to control himself in those moments. But you just see that there's, such sincerity, such devotion, and it's really beautiful. Now, we talked about this on the phone the other day. Like one element of this that is sort of, it's a refresher, for at least for me as a priest. It's super refreshing to watch the Pope saying Mass. And then you think about it and you realize in the last couple of years, Pope Francis did not celebrate Mass in public.
Right.
He would often appear at a mass. He would sit in choir or preside at the mass, but he wasn't the celebrant. And
so what would that mean that he's presiding if he's not celebrating?
Yeah. So if you have a prelate who outranks another prelate, technically the person with rank is supposed to be the main celebrant of mass.
Okay.
So I was once at something where it was I was the only priest, and there was a bishop there as well. Mm-hmm. And when it was time for mass, the bishop was the celebrant of the mass,
right?
Because he is a bishop,
right?
The proper ordering of things, the correct way to do it is that the bishop doesn't concelebrate with me; I concelebrate with the bishop,
right?
Right. As a priest, the bishop outranks me. Therefore, he's the one who takes the lead. If it was a situation where, and this will happen sometimes, let's say that a bishop is celebrating a mass on the occasion of his anniversary, but there's some other bishops in attendance. The bishops who outrank him, like an archbishop or a cardinal who might be there, they don't concelebrate necessarily. They would sit in choir.
So what does that mean, sit in choir?
So sitting in choir means that they're in attendance at the mass. They are.
I'm assuming they're not in a pew.
Correct. They're not in a pew. They would be in the sanctuary, but they're not concelebrating.
I see.
They're wearing vesture, liturgical vesture, but they're not vested as for mass. So you might see a cardinal at a mass being celebrated by a bishop, and the cardinal is in his red cassock with the white surplice, and he's seated in choir. It's a way of him being there, participating, praying. He might even give the homily, but he's not the celebrant, and it's just a way of making that distinction.
Right, it's a deference, basically.
Yeah, but it also indicates the liturgical norm would be that if I were to
it's a deference with
celebrate
acknowledgement.
the mass. Yeah, if I were to celebrate the mass, I would be the main celebrant.
Right.
The reason I'm here is for some other purpose, and so I won't be the main celebrant, but I will still be here.
Right.
And so Pope Francis had for a couple of years only been in choir or in a presider's role. So you'd see him often wearing a cope. That's the long cape that clasps under the neck. You'd see him wearing that, but not actually being the main celebrant. So he would be there. One of the cardinals would celebrate the mass. The Pope would give the homily, and then mass would continue. And at the beginning of his pontificate, Francis would celebrate mass in the chapel at the Casa Santa Marta. But eventually those daily celebrations stopped, and we didn't see the Pope celebrate mass publicly for quite a long time. Now, again, it was because of his health. He couldn't, it was difficult for him to stand and things. But it was, from an optics perspective, it was kind of discouraging. When does the Pope say mass?
Yeah.
We weren't seeing pictures of him saying mass privately.
Right.
It was just kind of like the Pope isn't saying mass, and now that's what it seemed like. I'm not saying that's what was actually happening.
Yes.
I want to make that just super clear. But it was kind of hard when you don't get to see the Pope saying mass. Now, for many of us priests with long memories or with lived experience of like John Paul II, I remember watching John Paul II struggle to say mass, basically from a wheelchair, and the image of him leaning, almost groaning with pain as he celebrated the mass, but the importance for him of saying mass and of offering the sacrifice was so moving to watch him do that, and to watch him do that. And it was
a living theology.
Yeah, to watch him do that in an obviously diminished capacity.
Yeah.
Physically, he did not have the strength that he had once had. Yeah. And to see him in that condition was so moving. You got this image of this is the sacrifice of Christ on the cross.
Right.
I'm seeing it here in front of me.
Right.
And so it was a little odd that Francis wasn't doing that.
Right.
So having a pope who's physically healthy enough to be able to say mass publicly again, it's noteworthy.
Right.
And I think it's to be remarked upon, even if it's not maybe the biggest deal. it matters. And there's a beautiful way that I think he's showing us how to say Mass. Now, if I'm going to prognosticate a little bit more,
Okay.
from like jumping from that, it would seem like we can expect that Leo will be a very balanced and very straightforward liturgical guide for the church. The guys on the pillar were talking about what he'll do liturgically, and they said that he'll be a man of the rubrics, and he'll kind of restore a sense of love for rubric and for the right celebration of the Mass. But they're also anticipating that he'll go methodically and kind of slowly. Like he's not going to be in a rush to do any of this. He's going to take his time. He's going to do it with a lot of discernment, with a lot of care. So it'll be. I think it's going to be a very interesting thing to watch.
Yeah. I mean, and interesting, but it's exciting. It's exciting.
It's extremely exciting. Yeah. We've got something beautiful that's happening right in front of us. And just to be able to watch it, to be able to witness to this it's something special. There's a beautiful way in which Pope Leo is stepping into this office. And now as we get to the end of the summer, like the next big question mark, right, is what kinds of decisions is he going to make? Now that we've gotten to the end of August and it's time for things to get started again, just like the school year here begins at the end of August, and we get back to life. We talk about, Bishop Caggiano likes to say that the pastoral year really begins with the school year.
Right.
We don't go January 1. We don't even really follow the liturgical calendar when we think about the year.
Right.
We think more about just the practicalities of when will people be around. Well, starting at the end of August when school begins again, they'll be on their way, and I think we will see without any question, a whole lot of really wonderful things coming, but there's also a way in which we don't know what to expect.
Yeah,
and that's kind of exciting.
Yeah. I mean, just like anything else, right? Like, just like anything else, but way more important.
Yeah. Well, the guys on the pillar did a whole thing about, if you really like inside baseball, about the inner workings of the church. They did a draft, like a fantasy draft of who they think will lead different Roman Curia congregations and dicasteries and everything, and I thought that's really funny.
Well, let me ask you this. Okay, so like, don't repeat the whole thing they do, you know?
Yeah, I won't.
But are there great changes coming? You know, what do you think? Is it going to be a sweeping?
Yeah, I think the answer is no. I don't think there's great changes, but there's certain things, like we should expect to see certain things pretty quickly. For example, before he was Pope, Pope Leo was Cardinal Prevost, the prefect of the dicastery for bishops. There is no prefect for the dicastery for bishops right now, because the former prefect for the dicastery for bishops is now the Pope. So I would expect in the coming months that there's going to be an announcement about who the new prefect for the dicastery of bishops would be. That would be a kind of a done deal. But the dicastery for bishops is important in terms of appointing bishops around the world, helping bishops around the world, being a resource for bishops around the world to support them in their ministry, to help them to engage in the proper way with the discipline of their diocese, with supporting their priests, etc. So yeah, I would expect for sure that we're going to see an appointment there. Similarly, there are bishops who are past the retirement age. So at the age of 75, every bishop submits his resignation, and the Pope can either accept it or let it sit on his desk for a while until he finally decides to accept it later. There are a number of bishops,
but you have to apply.
It has to be submitted, exactly. The canon law of the church
submitted, not applied.
Requires you to submit your retirement, your resignation due to age at 75. And so I would fully expect that several of just looking at the United States, there are several dioceses around the country that have a bishop who has reached the age of 75. And
how many?
I don't know how many it is, at least 6.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a lot.
Including at least 2 major metropolitan archdioceses.
Yeah, not to potentially throw myself under the bus here. How old is Cardinal Dolan?
Well, he's one of them.
He's one of them. Okay.
Yeah. So
I know. I just didn't want to get caught calling him old.
No. It's not that he's old. It's that he's reached the age when this is what bishops do because they're obedient to the law. He's obedient.
Yes.
Think of him that way.
Wow. I mean, that was. Let me tell you something. That turn, so impressive.
Right. Right. Not bad for old Father Stan here, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So Cardinal Dolan, Cardinal Supich in Chicago, they've both reached the age of 75.
I see, okay.
And so they would be on the list of people you would expect the Holy Father might be looking at sending somebody new to be the Archbishop of those dioceses.
Right.
I would expect
but
in some of the places.
But not necessarily a cardinal.
Well, typically it wouldn't be a cardinal. That would be somebody who would become a cardinal later. So after most of the time, if a bishop is sent to an archdiocese that is typically a cardinalatial see, we call it. So New York typically has a cardinal.
Right.
They're sent there first as the archbishop, and then they're made a cardinal after the fact.
Okay.
So you might have, I think Cardinal Dolan was Archbishop Dolan of New York for 4 months before he was named a cardinal.
Oh wow, that's not
something
that long,
like that.
Though.
It's not that long. No, You'll have others though who it's a longer time, and sometimes that's just a question of depending on like how many cardinals from one country are of voting age for a conclave. They might wait until one has turned 80 and then
because you
this guy gets a red hat.
Yeah, totally.
Of course, hey, if we're being really honest, nobody knows how cardinals are made anymore because Pope Francis had such a great fondness for just naming seemingly random people as cardinals. We don't necessarily know who might get picked. I suspect again, like I think Pope Leo will go back to something that's more familiar.
Right.
And I think that will just be his pattern. It will make more sense to him.
Right.
So that'll be the best way for him to govern. But we'll see. But I would expect in the next couple of months that we're going to see some episcopal appointments, some naming of bishops of significant places, and there's always a sense of the kinds of men who are chosen as bishops give you an indication of the kind of man the Pope is, or the kind of man that the Pope prefers to put in these different positions.
Right.
But there could also be some tremendous surprises.
The Pope impacts the life of the church in quote unquote the long run.
Yeah, exactly.
So fair enough.
The other piece of it, of course, is that you have guys who are being named bishops. The Pope doesn't necessarily know them personally.
Right.
He's read their file. He's been told about them, but he doesn't necessarily know them personally. And so there's you start to realize the communion of the church is also about the way that names are brought forward. The way that different men are vetted to become bishops, the kinds of like the way that prayer is operative in all of this and discernment of the Holy Spirit. There's a lot going on.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So I think it's really interesting being early in a pontificate. Really interesting to be at this moment in Pope Leo XIV and his reign to see what he's doing. But I keep getting asked by people, what do you think of the new Pope? And my answer is the same. Everything looks wonderful.
Yeah.
I like him. I'm excited about him. I'm excited. Like I get to go to Rome for a Jubilee pilgrimage this year.
Very cool.
And
yeah.
I am really excited to go and be at an audience with the Pope.
Yeah.
I'm really excited about that.
Yeah. So when you're in Rome, will you stay at the NAC?
No, I'm going with a pilgrimage group, and so we're staying at a hotel.
This
it's actually
is with it's a Catholic site.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Jen.
Yes,
friend of the show.
Yes.
Jennifer Coffey Shevchuk is organizing with Integrated Pilgrimages, and so we're going to have a pilgrimage experience there. It'll be very exciting. And the cool thing is it's a pilgrimage group, so I'm staying with the pilgrims. as we go. So there's a hotel that we're going to stay
sense.
at. The other reason, though, not to stay at the NAC is the week that we get to Rome is the week of the NAC diaconate ordination.
Sure.
So the guys who are to be ordained to the transitional diaconate are ordained that week.
Right.
And that is a chaotic week.
Yeah, it's going to be a mob
at
scene.
the Pontifical North American College. So
Right,
I won't be there. I will try to stop in and visit. I'm going to send Monsignor Powers an email and tell him
totally.
I'm going to be in town. I would love to say hello.
Yeah.
Because I like him. He's a good person.
Right, yeah. I only met him, I met him once or twice, but he was on Let Me Be Frank.
Yeah.
So when he was on Let Me Be Frank, we actually recorded that particular episode in person.
Nice.
And so I got to meet him.
Oh, because he was home. Yeah.
That
That's
was
awesome.
that was a fun episode of Let Me Be Frank. Shout out to Let Me Be Frank.
There it is.
Cool. Well, so do you want to count that as your closing thought, or do you want?
That's my closing thought.
Okay.
I have no further thoughts.
Yeah, my closing thought is one that is synonymous to yours, which is I'm also very excited.
Great. Now that we have emptied our brains.
Yeah. Hey, I think we should say a prayer for Pope Leo then.
I agree.
Cool. I would like you to say it.
I thought you might. I thought you might put me in charge. It's because of holy orders,
Yep. It's that deference thing you were talking about before.
Yeah. Right. Well, in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen. Heavenly Father, we ask you to pour out your graces and blessings on Leo, our Pope, that he may govern wisely, that he may be filled with the Holy Spirit, that he may always show us the face of Christ, and that by his work, by his ministry, and by his labors, the Christian faithful may be nourished in word and in sacrament, and the gospel proclaimed to the whole world. Through Christ our Lord.
Amen.
Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
All right. Thanks, Father Sam.
You got it.
Thanks for watching today's video. Let us know what you thought down below, and don't forget to like and subscribe.